Hello there, and a very good morning to you. And you're very welcome indeed to the programme this morning, and we will start with the headlines. The Irish Independent Delaney's FAI and the THG ticket deal, and this is to do with all of the financing of Lansdowne Road and Aviva and Sales and so on and so forth, which kind of coincided with the crash, which was a bit of a problem for people involved. But anyway, the Irish Times, they've a gorgeous picture of Killarney. Now, Killarney always looks gorgeous, but it's a particularly good one on the front page. And the main story, emails reveal Hickey THG response plan. The Irish Examiner, Minister, I cannot interfere in Hickey legal case. Family want Flanagan to help get OCI chief out of Rio prison. And then they also have the President leading tributes to the former Taoiseach Barry. And 2 patients a day seek treatment in EU over failings in our health system. That's an interesting story, and that could grow. Now, the Irish Daily Mail. Kenneth, my family used ticket touts at Olympics, and this is going back in time now. And Kenneth Egan's family had to resort to ticket touts so they could see the Olympic hero box for Ireland at the Beijing Games, he reveals in today's Irish Mail. So there you go. But you must remember, these things are not illegal here. And we have different laws in different jurisdictions. Now, the Irish Daily Star, here we go. I mean, all week people were talking about the Rose of Tralee. People either love the Rose of Tralee or they sneer at the Rose of Tralee. But if you look at the figures, an awful lot of people watch the Rose of Tralee. So it's a play on that on the Irish Daily Star called The Rouse of Tralee. We've never heard rouse from there before, but there you go. On the Irish Daily Mirror, Rose of Tralee show, cruel and disgusting. And this was to do with round 1 of the show. Anyway, I'm joined in studio this morning by the woman that is essentially making all the headlines today, but not in her own name, but called the solicitor for the Hickey family. And she's Anne-Marie James, and you're very welcome into studio.
Thanks, Marian.
I gather you're afraid I'm going to eat the face off you, which I'm not, okay?
Well, it's not my normal day job.
I can get that. I understand that fully. Now, you want to say you're a solicitor for the Hickey family, not Pat Hickey.
Yes, no, I don't represent Mr. Hickey.
Right. And when you issued the statement yesterday, can you go through you on behalf of your client, the main concerns and points that they want to get across?
The family are devastated. This is a most bizarre situation for them. They're normally a very private family. There are 4 children, 5 grandchildren, 2 on the way, one of whom is a miracle baby. And they're...
How do you mean a miracle baby?
Well, with great effort, we're hoping there'd be another baby, or the family are hoping that there would be another baby. But so that is obviously just a background as to the stress that they're under at the moment.
Yeah, what's the age range of the family?
Approximately 40 down to 28.
Right.
And I know Fred, who's the eldest of the family.
Right.
And it was Fred who approached me and asked if I would help them to try and work out what they could do to help their father. While Mrs. Hickey's wife was over there, she was asking that they wouldn't get involved because the OCI had briefed lawyers. She said it was a total misunderstanding. It was going to be sorted out in a matter of a day or 2. I think since she's come home, she realised how isolated she was from everything. And the enormity of it when she got home. And it was only then.
And was it he who insisted she come home?
It was, absolutely, yes.
Had she got in to see him at that stage?
No, it takes 20 to 30 days to get in to see him, and for that reason he insisted she went home. He was also afraid, apparently, that she would be arrested and all the rest of the Irish contingent would be arrested. So he asked them all to go home, even though they were all offering to stay and support him.
Right.
So my brief was to try and steer the family in what do you do in a situation like this. And whilst I'm a commercial lawyer, I have a very passionate interest in human rights. And as I saw it playing out, it disgusted me. But more importantly, I wanted to try and see what I could do to help them with their concerns, which are mainly around his safety in a chaotic political system, in a high security, notorious prison, which conditions of which are pretty appalling. I think you'll see from all of the papers, and to the concern about his mental health, given the manner in which he has been arrested, the trolling of pictures of him in a state of undress across the world media. And how that's feeding into his physical health. I think for any of us to be trolled across naked or in a state of undress across any paper would be devastating. But this man is internationally known.
Yes.
And so I think for him, whilst he's, I understand, a very private man and family man in Ireland, he's a very public figure abroad. And he is a member of the International Olympic Council, of which I think there are only 115 members, and you have to be invited to be asked. So he's a very well-known and well-got international figure, despite the hate fest and the clear antipathy towards him here.
Why do you think there's a hate fest? It struck me as kind of remarkable from the very beginning. That normally you have hate figures. Now, sometimes they were bankers, sometimes they're politicians, sometimes they're whatever, sometimes they're broadcasters, it can be whatever. But you normally get somebody that'll make contact or write in or make a phone call to say, this guy is an absolutely terrific guy and this is appalling. That didn't happen for him, and it didn't happen for Kevin Mallon. Well, it's like silence.
It does seem to be very one-sided. I mean, even there are pictures of him being shown with Vladimir Putin as if that he's involved with, I think the description was shady characters. He meets people of all countries all the time. There was no picture of him shaking hands with school children as he handed out scholarships. There has been a very one-sided, in my mind, hate fest. And I think my concern is I really am absolutely outraged at what I consider to be a flagrant breach of his fundamental human rights. He has been denied a fair trial at this stage. I think that's fair to say. He hasn't been brought. Well, I understand that he's been brought before a court yesterday in the hope of getting bail, but to be treated and degraded and humiliated in the fashion that he has been, and then for the drip feed of information to come from the Brazilian police, where they had the audacity, in my view, to use Lifeline to try and explain things, and yet he's gagged. He can't say anything. He's in a prison cell. He hasn't been charged with anything. These are, as his lawyers described, these are accusations based on the flimsiest of assumptions.
So anyway, there is the fact that innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that has been abused. And there is a presumption of innocence in the constitution in Brazil. And I believe that the Brazilian police behaviour has been lawless, because they're completely disregarding their own constitution. So we have been, the family haven't been in any contact with Pat. We've now made...
At all?
No, well, Sylviane was prevented from seeing him, and now we've appointed a firm of criminal lawyers in Ireland, Sheehan Dunphy and Partners, who will liaise with the lawyers in Rio. And there was a conference call just the other evening where the family asked, was it possible that they could get messages of support to him? And they have huge concerns about his mental state and the fact that he is missing all of them, and they haven't been able to be in any contact.
Right. So they're going to try for letters?
Yeah, which will be approved by the police authority or by the prison authorities and passed in. Just offering their support and showing their love for their
When
father.
You say approved, do you mean pre-read?
Oh, I presume they would be, yes, absolutely.
I suppose so.
Yeah. So I don't know the ins and outs of that. But I mean, the drip feeding of information in a situation where he's gagged and he has no opportunity to respond, in my mind, can't guarantee a fair trial. So we've asked the Minister, Charlie Flanagan, to meet with us. We did meet with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and there are consul on the ground. But the only objection that the Department of Foreign Affairs made to Brazil was the fact that they had filmed and released film of his passport. And the reason they did that is because that's actually state property. But I think it's quite bizarre that in making that objection, they didn't see fit to say, and by the way, we don't fancy the idea of our Irish citizens being trolled across naked across the world media.
Well, about the nakedness, sure. But there has been consular contact, hasn't there?
There have been 2 visits after I made a telephone call to Minister Flanagan, and he, I understand, has now requested that the ambassador would remain in Rio for the period, and there is consular. They've been twice to see him, and there are concerns. His recent.
Well, can they give any account to the family of how his health is?
They have done, but most of the reports we were getting were via RTE. But we've got some information from the. And there are 2 very lovely girls who are on the ground and have been in contact with Fred. But we now have heard that Mr. Hickey has asked for mosquito repellent, which would imply that he's exposed to mosquitoes, therefore malaria, the Zika virus, and obviously whatever other endemic diseases are in prisons such as TB, with people living in close quarters. Yeah,
the very odd thing, I thought, was an account that if you had a 3rd level education, you would get a cell to yourself.
What a perk.
It seems bizarre.
Absolutely. That is the truth. Actually, Fred, when he was asked for the medical information, was asked for his Miavi qualifications. He didn't know why, but yeah, what a perk of 3rd level education. You get your own cell in Bangu prison in Rio.
And do you know for sure Kevin Mallon is there?
He certainly wasn't in the same cell as Kevin Mallon for most of the time the press was reporting. I understand they may be together now. I think there are reports today that a Supreme Court injunction has been issued and that he might get out, which is fantastic news, because he's been incarcerated for 3 weeks or more without charge. But I'm really only here to speak on behalf of the Hickey family and try and I suppose that people would understand that they are a family, that this man is a father and a grandfather, and he could be anyone's father. It could be you or I who are in that situation, and we have to be mindful of that. So I'm asking the Minister, I would like to meet...
Hasn't he agreed?
He has agreed now to meet with us on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that my concern is that his line might be that he's not going to interfere in a judicial process and protocol, etc. And I totally accept that he cannot intervene in the judicial process of another country. But that doesn't mean that he could not make our objections of an Irish citizen. They are elected representatives. That's their job, to look after us. That's why we elect them. Yeah. And who else, if not them?
Well, foreign affairs, I think, it's fair to say, have a good reputation right around the world for Irish citizens.
Yes, I would say that they do, and I'm hopeful that the meeting on Wednesday will move us along even a bit further in that. Right. I even think the fact that the Minister is, as I said, asking the Brazilian ambassador to be there is now a little bit... I think the fact that the
Brazilian ambassador?
The Irish ambassador, beg your pardon.
Yeah,
to remain in Rio. And I think that is, a sign that we're watching what's going on, that they can't just behave in this flagrant disregard, trial by media, and incarcerating somebody while they gag him, humiliate him, isolate him, and any prisoner.
Right. You're in contact now with the lawyers over there.
Yes, I've been in contact with them.
And I don't want to name names or anything like that at all, but it is alleged that he was told to put Shane back in his box, the minister. It seems an extraordinary attitude, doesn't it?
Well, I think that was actually something that came to him by way of an advisory letter, which I think maybe the wording is unfortunate. But in reality, I'm not sure that this is known. That, and I only know this because of having been involved with the family and listening to the lawyers, speaking with the Irish lawyers, is that it hasn't been put out that when somebody's asked, are they going to have an internal investigation? It's pretty normal that there is no external person on that. You can have as many external investigations as you like. And because there was pressure by Minister Ross to have somebody put onto initially there was a refusal because that's the way they do it. Because of the seriousness of it, I think Mr. Hickey asked his next boss in, I don't know, is the EOC or the so many OCs and IOCs and
IOC,
OCIs,
yes, yeah.
Would they do it? And there had been an agreement reached between Minister Ross after, I think, 7 hours of negotiation that they would appoint Ken Spratt. So that hasn't come out. It's all, smoke and mirrors that he's been of no assistance and all of that. But look, that's for another time. That's for an investigation, which he'll have to come and answer. And I don't know how that can happen when he's incarcerated in a prison, because in Rio.
Yeah, what are the prospects? What is normal practice, or do you know what is normal practice in Rio?
Well, in terms of an investigation here, I would have thought that he would have to be here, or at least be given access to whatever documentation he's supposed to explain. I understand from this video conference we had with, and again, I'm not acting, there is a firm acting for him with them, but that he has asked for documentation which he says will exonerate him. This was the lawyer in Brazil. So I think that is all.
Pat Hickey was looking for documentation.
Yeah.
From whom? From Ireland?
From the OCI, and I think from the solicitors that they've now appointed, Arthur Cox.
Right.
So I think that request is being made or formulated.
And under the rules, do you know, will he be facilitated in that action by the Rio authorities?
Well, I think that, yes, I don't think
like the lawyer-client.
Yeah, I don't think that the Rio authorities can prevent the Rio lawyers requesting documentation that will help exonerate his client. And I have no doubt but that the OCI and their lawyers will step up to the plate and won't find any protocol reasons as to why they can't release that when a man's detention is at stake. I think when he needs, if he has to answer whatever charges are brought against him when they're brought, and that's a matter for him to prove his innocence or not, as the case may be, but he should be given all documentation that he says will help him.
Exonerate him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the family are here at home.
Yes, they are.
And I gather their main worry is his health.
Their main worry is his health and getting him a speedy trial. That's what he's also requested. He has, I see, said that he wishes to remain there and have his name cleared. I think that his reputation has been irreparably damaged. But I think now it's a matter for him
and that will hurt him, won't it?
Well, he's worked an awfully long time to get to where he is. And I know that he's not popular here, but he seems to be very popular internationally. I don't know the man. I might have met him 4 times in my life, but I know he's a very private and family man in Ireland. Doesn't live the high life in any way, very modest lifestyle. So that's as much as I know.
So they're all presumably...
Well, they're all, yeah. I mean, Fred's son is about to start school for the first time. They had a whole thing planned where Grandad was going to bring him down as well, and it was going to be made a big thing. He's going to miss that. He has 2 daughters-in-law who are early stages of pregnancy and being monitored very closely, and clearly the stress for them as a family and as human beings is awful. And then just the concern that their dad is locked up.
He has an unusual heart condition.
Yes, he has a heart. He's had electric shock treatment, and my understanding of that particular condition is that there's only so much electrical shock treatment that you can have, and then that's it. There is no further treatment you can have. So I don't know how far along that it is, but the deleterious effect of all of this on anyone's physical heart has to be can't be underestimated, especially for a man of his age at 71.
Yeah. I can only imagine that the family are up the walls. I mean, anybody would be.
Yes, they are. They're absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastated. And they know for him, because he's a private man, they know for him how terribly upsetting. One of the points that Fred, when he said, for him to have his head shaved. Now, as it turns out, that hasn't happened. But the reaction of Fred to that was...
It didn't happen.
Head in his hands of, he'll just hate that. And, then the pictures, we didn't know whether he'd seen the pictures or not. But, that he would be trolled across the world media is just devastating for them, But the reality is their main concern is his health and safety. And I think that the only way of safeguarding that is to get him back to Ireland. So the speedier the trial...
Yeah, well, I was going to say you have to have the trial first, don't you?
Yeah, I think that would be great to get the bail application in, so he's back out.
And then
of
he
jail.
could get house arrest?
Yeah, and I think they've offered that. I don't know what terms that might be, but they've offered that. I think the OCI have already rented an apartment for him to live in while he deals with the case. And maybe at that stage, the family might be able to go over. He's absolutely adamant they weren't to at the moment. So they're abiding by his wishes, and as did Sylviane in coming home, despite her clear desire not to leave her husband there.
Yeah.
Isn't
it heartbreaking in a way, all the excitement and positivity and good cheer and excitement and that?
It is. You see the lads getting their medals, and Annalise Murphy, and it's fantastic for Ireland. I'm a very proud Irish woman, and
for all who qualified.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, it is an extraordinary ending to what was a very optimistic trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you very, very much indeed.
Thanks, Marian.
For coming in. I know that a lot of people will understand that the family would be up, any family would be up the walls, anguished by this. So we will see what happens. It has to be said the police behave in a different fashion to what they do here normally. However, you must remember poor Cliff Richard. Do you remember the BBC filming his house being
absolutely.
done? And nothing against him. And it's all been cleared. Anyway, that's a different jurisdiction. Thank you very much indeed for coming in and for talking to us. Thank you.